Welcome to This Explainer. I am so glad you're here today because, well, we're going to unpack one of history's most absolutely devastating domino effects. We're looking at a period that completely reshaped the modern world, and we're tracing the very specific, undeniable steps that led an entire nation to literally abandon its freedom. It's a profound question, isn't it? Like, how exactly does a democracy fall? It doesn't usually happen overnight in one massive explosion. Instead, as we're going to see from Germany's catastrophic transformation from a republic to a dictatorship, it's often a sequence of vulnerabilities, exploited by the exact right voices at exactly the wrong time.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our chronological journey for today. We start with a fragile new democracy, then we look at the Great Depression, Hitler's rise to power, the shift to ideology and absolute control, the Holocaust and World War, and finally, why this history really matters today. To really ground us, take a look at this timeline. This is the rapid sequence of events we're analyzing today. Just look at how condensed this is. From the end of World War I in 1918 to Hitler becoming chancellor in 1933, that is just 15 years. 15 years. That is a breathtakingly short amount of time for a country to completely unravel and reinvent itself as a totalitarian state.
Section 1 of Fragile New Democracy, the Aftermath of World War I.
Okay, imagine a nation tasked with rebuilding itself from the ground up, all while carrying an absolute mountain of a burden. When World War I ended, Germany signed the Treaty of Versailles. And the terms, they were grueling. Germany lost crucial territories, they were forced to pay these massive heavy war compensations, and they faced severe military restrictions. According to the historical data, the citizens didn't just find this treaty difficult, they considered it deeply humiliating. And that sense of national humiliation, that's our crucial first domino.
So, out of those ashes, a new government was actually formed. This was the Weimar Republic, Germany's newly formed democracy. But think about it. Establishing a democracy in a country that's economically drained, internationally sanctioned, and culturally humiliated, that places immense pressure on its incredibly fragile foundations. The expectations were sky high, but the resources to actually meet them were practically non-existent. And those immense pressures quickly built into a completely unsustainable situation. The Weimar Republic immediately faced three massive stumbling blocks. First up, severe political instability. Second, overlapping economic crises and runaway inflation. We're talking the kind of inflation where your money literally becomes practically worthless overnight. And third, rampant high unemployment. These three factors combined made the Weimar Republic dangerously vulnerable to collapse right from the get-go.
Section 2. The Great Depression strikes. The breaking point.
The year is 1929. The global economy basically shatters. This year stands out as the ultimate catalyst for the devastation to come, striking a fatal blow to whatever fragile stability the Weimar Republic had managed to scrape together. The fallout was immediate, and it was brutal. The crisis caused massive factory closures across the entire country. Unemployment didn't just rise, it absolutely soared. Widespread, severe poverty completely took hold of the German people. And here is the absolute most important takeaway from this economic desperation. The sheer lack of basic survival resources led directly to the people losing total faith in their democracy. They were starving, they were desperate, and the democratic government seemed completely powerless to actually help them.
Section 3, Hitler's rise to power, the false savior.
Extremist movements rarely gain traction when a country is thriving, right? They prey on vulnerability. Hitler offered incredibly appealing promises to a desperate nation. Jobs to the unemployed, a restoration of national pride, and a strong government to replace the failing Weimar Republic. But the reality of his actions upon actually becoming chancellor in 1933? Completely different. He immediately banned opposition parties, took absolute control of the media, and totally suppressed civilian freedoms. Just like that, Germany seamlessly transitioned from a struggling democracy into a full-blown dictatorship.
Section 4. Ideology and absolute control. Dismantling democracy. So the regime essentially implemented this dual strategy. On one hand, they initiated massive public works projects and expanded the military, which visually at least addressed those huge economic and unemployment issues. But simultaneously, and this is absolutely critical, they systematically suppressed all political freedoms. They gave the illusion of this grand national recovery while quietly stripping away every single civilian right that could possibly challenge their authority. Now, beneath all these political maneuvers was the core Nazi ideology. And just reporting the historical facts straight from the source texts here, the Nazi Party operated on the claim that Germans belonged to a, quote, superior Aryan race. And by definition, this ideology required labeling certain other groups of human beings as, quote, inferior. This wasn't just fringe rhetoric, you guys. This extremist worldview became the absolute law of the land, heavily, heavily enforced by the state. Section 5, the Holocaust and World War II. The darkest chapter. The Holocaust stands as one of history's worst genocides, when hateful ideology is given the full, unrestrained machinery of a totalitarian state. The scale of the resulting tragedy it's almost incomprehensible. The historical record clearly outlines the specific groups who were mercilessly persecuted, hunted, and sent to concentration camps like Auschwitz. Millions of European Jews were systematically murdered. The regime also targeted and killed the Roma people, disabled individuals, and political opponents who dared to speak out. We really must let these horrifying historical facts speak for themselves. This is the ultimate end result of state-sponsored hatred. Beyond those internal atrocities, Hitler's aggressive military expansion to conquer surrounding territories inevitably ignited World War II. It was a massive global conflict that devastated entire continents, ultimately ending with Germany's total military defeat in the year 1945. The regime was finally destroyed, but the cost in human life was absolutely staggering. Section 6. Why this history matters. The lasting lesson. So, what does all this historical data mean for us today? Well, there are 3 key takeaways we really need to remember. First, the constant, ever-present dangers of dictatorship, how quickly absolute power corrupts. Second, the vital importance of protecting democracy, even when it's messy or struggling, because the alternative is so much worse. And third, the terrifying real-world consequences of hatred and discrimination when it's allowed to just flourish unchecked. We've seen exactly how quickly the dominoes can fall, right? From a fragile democracy to economic panic, to false promises, to absolute control, and finally, unfathomable tragedy. The mechanisms that dismantle freedom are always kind of waiting in the wings. So the final thought I'm going to leave you with today is this. When modern institutions face their own immense pressures, will we remember the true dangers of dictatorship, or will history find a way to repeat itself?